Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase. Yes, it does come with a fun Picky Tinny Rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15 like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more. Lastly, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, Volkswagen workers go on strike as there's record low demand for their vehicles. Now, this comes to us thanks to CNN Business, which somehow, still in business. I'm pretty surprised. They've had some major layoffs recently. Now, specifically, this is credit to Hannah Zelinsky, who's a writer over there, in which they say, quote, Volkswagen woes mount as workers go on strike across Germany, which, when there's record low demand for your product, that's not the opportune time to go on strike because there's record low demand for you. And again, hopefully these governments grow a backbone and actually, throw off the yoke that is the European Union. Because again, Germany makes some great cars. Would love to get a Porsche 911 Turbo S one of these days, or just a Cayman. That'd be great. Costs a pretty penny, but their best vehicles are being kneecapped and taken away from us thanks to bureaucratic regulations. I would argue over-regulation, and China is eating everyone's lunch as they really can't be it's really hard to compete with them with electronics and giant EVs. They're basically giant electronics on wheels, so China's pretty good at ripping off that technology and mass producing it. A lot of legacy automotive companies are really struggling to adapt. Now, going down the body of the article, they say, quote, tens of thousands of Volkswagen workers are taking part in strikes at plants across Germany, marking the largest walkout at the car's domestic operations since 2018. Here you can see a little bit close up of those folks over there. Hard at work, standing around. Now, they say, quote, the strikes, which are planned to last several hours following weeks of collective bargaining negotiations, during which VW refused to rule out mass layoffs and plant closures in its home market. Because, again, there's record low demand. The CFO of Volkswagen, which I've never heard of a company doing this in history, came out and said publicly, we think our brand has about 2 years before it's not viable anymore. There's just that low demand. Now, again, the Volkswagen portfolio does have awesome cooler brands like Porsche, Lamborghini, Ducati, Bugatti. But again, the specific Volkswagen brand, that's the one that's been struggling, and that's the one that has really just low demand. And again, if the EV mandates, that's going to cripple that company even more. Now, they say the drastic measures the company says are necessary, again, the closures and possible layoffs, to prop up its fortunes amid competition from China and weaker European demand. Or let's be honest, every time we see China, think of Trump go, China, they got the EVs, they're going to mass produce them with BYD. That's why we need the tariffs, throw off the yoke of globalism. I mean, he didn't say it precisely like that, but you get what I'm saying. And they say a so-called peace obligation between the workers and the company, which prohibited industrial action expired, allowing strikes to take place from Sunday, virtually all the factories. The chief negotiator of the mob, the union, IG Metall, says, quote, if necessary, this will become the toughest wage dispute Volkswagen has ever seen. How long and intense will the dispute is Volkswagen's responsibility at negotiation table? He continues saying, quote, Volkswagen has set our collective bargaining agreements on fire and, instead of extinguishing the fire during 3 rounds of negotiations, the management board keeps throwing out barrels of gasoline onto it, unquote. They note that workers at 9 of VW's 10 plants are striking, according to IG Metall, with one site subject to separate collective bargaining agreement excluded, which, again, your company's it's, again, one of the things with unions, not all of them are terrible and corrupt. Well, many of them can't help but see most of the dollars they generate or steal from the workers in the U.S. go to Democrats, but I partially digress. There's record low demand. These companies are struggling. Volkswagen might not make it, and yet they're saying, no, you should not close any plants. You should not be able to lay off any workers. It almost reminds me of Radio Shack, which I was going to say you can't see on this camera angle, but I do have one of those Radio Shack signs behind me. When they went bankruptcy, they went bankrupt twice, actually. The second bankruptcy contingency of the company that purchased them out, American General, said you can't close any stores, which that in and of itself set them up for pretty much failure because a lot of stores are underperforming and losing them a lot of money. So again, with this issue, VW's really in a tight spot here. And of course, they probably want record wages too. Now they say, quote, IG Metall said the walkouts were the first large-scale strikes Volkswagen has faced in 2018, while 50,000 workers sat away doing nothing. I mean, idled plants all day. Although the latest work stoppages will only last a few hours, it's possible to have even more. And they're saying nothing is off the table. And yeah, I mean, I have no idea how they're going to survive. I mean VW. It's one of those things where I think these workers are pretty short-sighted. Again, not all of them, they're not all in unison. Many of them are, as you can see this photo here. But again, Volkswagen is in a really tough spot. And again, I suspect without massive political tariffs to protect legacy automakers, you can't beat China on price or the EV technology because they rip off other technology so expertly. That's what the majority of China's economy is built upon. I mean, shoot, they knock off everything, including toothpaste. It's ridiculous. So, I mean, I feel really bad for these legacy automobile companies. Also, I think they need to grow a backbone and say, hey, EU, this is also the country of Germany, hey, EU, we're going to make the awesome cars that people want to buy, not the ones that people are less likely to buy, and the ones that you're forcing upon them, and the ones that China has all the competitive advantage to. I mean, VW just handed over, a lot of the money, 4.9, about $5 billion to Rivian in a futile attempt to try to bolster their EV offerings. They're going to do some badge sharing, I'm sure. There's some technology sharing. But again, I don't think that's enough to compete with BYD, which is quickly becoming the largest, I was about to say, elephant in the room, more appropriately, the largest panda in the room. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at the end of the day for Volkswagen. But I mean, just anecdotally, do you know anyone who currently, again, I'm in the US, I'd love to hear international folks as well. Do you know anyone who owns a Volkswagen vehicle and do they like it? I mean, I have a very small sample size. I know 2 people who own Volkswagens. One of them hates it because of so many mechanical issues. The other one loves it. Again, that's a comically small sample size. Again, 50% is still pretty rough in terms of customer dissatisfaction. And some of the best awesome models and, they used to be such a great enthusiast performance brand. I mean, but they've lost so many of those. So I'm very skeptical. I'm surprised I still see dealerships in Texas for Volkswagen. Lord knows, I'm pretty sure they have copious amounts of dust on all the vehicles there. I see so few of them selling. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think at the end of the day the union will destroy Volkswagen as a whole? Do you think, how many plant closures will they need to actually, meet the record low demand? I mean, what do you think the future holds for Volkswagen? Let me know in the comments because, as always, it'll be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.